Welcome to the Coping Podcast, where we share strategies for coping with the stressors of life, especially the difficulties of parenting. And here is your host, Dr. Lee Weisz.
This is Dr. Lee Weisz. I am the host of the Coping Podcast, where I feature top experts on topics like raising healthy children, parenting, and so much more. Thanks for tuning into this special Best Of episode. On this edition of the show, we'll take a look back at some of our favorite moments from previous conversations. It's brought to you by Coping Partners. Coping Partners is a mental health practice in the Chicago suburbs dedicated to helping children, adolescents, and adults. We help manage various challenges, including anxiety, divorce, behavioral issues, relationship problems, and much more. Check out more episodes of our podcast and our website at copingpartners.com, and you can contact us with any questions you have. Now, let's take a look back at some of our favorite memories from previous conversations.
Just a quick disclaimer, the information provided is for educational and informational purposes only. This is not intended to provide mental health treatment and does not constitute a client-therapist relationship. The information provided is not a replacement for being assessed and evaluated by a licensed professional and is not intended to replace mental health or medical advice.
Sure, and there can be crossover with sensory issues too in the area of clothing or hair or food. So something for parents to know too. And I will say that when I am sitting with a child or a teenager with OCD, that they talk about how they have to do certain things, like maybe wash their hands over and over again, or arrange their hockey bag or their dance bag in just the right way, or say an elaborate prayer at night to keep their family members from becoming ill. So this is not something that they want to do.
No.
It's not like a superstitious behavior, right? So you won the first playoff game when you were wearing your orange socks. So you're going to wear them for the next game to bring you good luck,
Sure.
right? Or you're going to avoid walking on the cracks on the sidewalk or under a ladder. Those things are kind of short and silly and fun.
Mhm.
OCD is much more serious, and it is a struggle, and it's no picnic for the person who is dealing with it. They don't want to be doing these things.
Yeah, I think it's actually a really important point, because what we're really trying to do is change the way that we think about child anxiety disorders. You know, for the longest time, the way we thought about child anxiety disorders is basically adult anxiety disorders in a smaller package, right? In a smaller person, in a younger person, as though it's exactly the same phenomenon. And that works to a degree because, in fact, child anxiety in many ways is very similar to adult anxiety. You do have worries, you have fears, you have avoidance, all of those things that you have in adults. But what that really misses is that actually child anxiety is not quite the same as adult anxiety. And the reason it isn't is deeply rooted in our biology, in our basic makeup as like our species, right? This isn't like just a, abstract idea. It's deeply rooted in our biology, especially and in particular in our biology as mammals.
And I think, I speak about this when I'm speaking to athletes or even to parents. I say, your why is the lighthouse, right? And so when athletes are burnt out, right, you think about it, the lighthouse, its job is to shed light on the water. If your boat is so far from the lighthouse that it can't see the light, how are you going to get to the shore? How are you going to get to your why, right? And so that's what happened to me. That's what happens to so many athletes is in the rough of a storm, they'll get pushed away from their why. They'll get pushed away from their lighthouse. And so a lot of the work that I do when I have athletes who are, burnt out or experiencing injury, I'll say, let's bring us back to this lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
Let's bring us back to these whys, because otherwise you're going to get lost out there and you're never going to reconnect with it.
Well, I guess it depends on what they're asking, right? It really depends. In other words, you want to understand what their fears are. So let them ask the questions, and then you can figure out, right, if it's something you can answer or not. But sometimes you don't answer their questions. Sometimes you just validate the feelings or the fear or the experience and let them process. So one of the best ways of healing is to allow them to process their feelings, to cry, to just to be together with you, as opposed to doing it alone. And that goes for adults too, by the way. So we all are better off when we process in community, in groups. And if they aren't ready to process, that's okay too, right? But you're just giving them the permission that they can when they're ready. Some people actually get kind of numb and are not able to cry and are not able to go there right away after a stressor, after a trauma. And that's also very normal. In fact, we're wired for a couple of different physiological responses. So we don't want to make people feel badly if they're maybe not able to cry or feeling a little bit in shock. And the opposite is true too. Some people may be having difficulty sleeping or really be, fearful. And that's also very understandable, when we've experienced a trauma like this.
Such great points, Lee. That's right. When we think of children or all individuals, we think of functioning. So when we think of children, young adults, we want to think of the settings that they live in, their home life, their school life, their social life, and extracurricular life. And when we are so focused on using these devices, our behavior is impaired and we can't engage in those settings the way that we want to. And we can't have a healthy sleep schedule, and it affects our eating. And so there goes our sleep hygiene, and there goes possibly our hygiene itself, because we may choose not to bathe. And so that we can game. And so exactly, those stinky kids, right? And so we won't find a way to help them understand what's happening to their mind. And it's so hard for them to do that because they're so fused to it. You're right. When you brought that up, sleeping with their phone, waking up at 3 a.m, we hear typically things that maybe adults think of, oh, that's sweet, like something with Snapchat, keeping a streak alive. Mm-hmm. Well, that's nice, but to what end? And what limit are we willing to take it? Right. And if we miss it, what does that feel like internally? And how can we sit with that feeling and understand it without thinking that we're going to lose friendships? The stakes have gotten too high.
Thank you for listening to the Coping Podcast. We'll see you again next time. And be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes. And check out our podcast page at copingpartners.com.